Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. How are we?
All right. How are you?
Keeping on. It's been a good week.
Keep on. I feel like we haven't seen you for like a few weeks on here, man.
We have not. There have been big, exciting things happening in the world that I have often been on a plane.
You have.
That, adds up.
But it is great to have you back with us today here on April 1st.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, we could have paid like an April Fool's joke type of thing.
We could have.
I don't know what that would be, but well, hey man, you're back and I haven't heard from you in a while. Why don't you let the listeners know like why experience matters, why we do what we're doing?
You know, even with all the travels that we've been on and I've been on, it is amazing how experience touches absolutely everything that businesses do. So we are here to help people who care about that, who care about the success of their business, come together and dive deeper into the concept of experience from a big perspective so that build revenue, retain their staff, have a better employee experience, make the customer happier, which leads to more revenue and more business. So there's absolutely no reason not to invest in experience.
That's right, man. That's right. Well, you know, we are actually have a really special guest on today, a gentleman who we've partnered with this year, who's doing some amazing things. I'm really glad to have him on with us. And so Mark Michelson has been an entrepreneur in the marketing research industry since starting his first company in 1984. He worked on numerous global experience design studios for diverse clients, including Walmart stores, GM, Coca-Cola, Ford, HP, IBM, Johnson and Johnson, and Bridgestone. In addition to running his research companies, Mark started several trade associations in the research industry, including the Mystery Shopping Professional Association. Mark's latest project is producing CX Forums Experience Summits in markets across the USA. We're really excited about that. So welcome to the show, Mark. How are you doing, buddy?
Good. Very excited to be bringing people back in person.
I know. Like, and it's actually really exciting to be planning to go back in person too, with several events right now. Oops, I don't know what happened.
Oh, there I am.
There you are. Yeah, this stuff is glitching a little bit today. Kicked Michael and I out earlier, so
interesting.
But yeah, so really excited to talk about the forums here in a little bit. But hey, Mark, will you tell our listeners, why do you do what you do, and what keeps you motivated as you do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I was, I guess, a teenager, I was living over in Greece. I was actually living all over Europe. I was pretty much a hippie, just playing guitar in the streets and stuff. And I kind of realized that I had a knack for not getting in fights because I'm a small guy. And so, you know, aside from having big friends around me, I just kind of had a way of trying to help people understand each other, right? And about that time, I read a book. It was called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and I read this book, and it said you should have a mission. And so I took that to heart. And people had told me I kind of had a knack for helping people understand each other. So my mission became, and I wrote it down, I've lived it ever since, to help people understand each other. And in doing that, you know, there's a lot to it. have to say, first of all, you have to understand yourself, which is a constant challenge. But in helping people understand each other, there's a lot of different ways to go about it. And my profession has allowed me to do that, as well as the music in my hobbies, as well as travel and conferences as well. So it's allowed me to sort of redefine what I do along the path of that mission.
Awesome, awesome. And I know, Mark, we've not talked about this in great detail, but you and I had a little bit of a conversation, and Michael and I are both musicians as well. And so understand it. And I understand why you do what you do. It's the same reason and same passion that Michael and I have around us. So I'm going to actually let it turn over to to Michael, some here, Mark, and let him ask. We've got a stoke and a fun quote that we actually found that talks about purpose, and then let you answer some for us. So go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, the Stoke is from royalty herself, right? From one of our favorites, Dolly Parton, which is find out who you are and do it on purpose. And if you spent a minute with Dolly Parton in any context, you realize that she has the ability to just cut through to the heart of whatever it is. And she says it with such grace and with such clarity, and she's just so freaking smart on top of that. So find out who you are, do it on purpose, which is part of your story of how you got to this place. So where did this idea of coming up with these summits come from? How do you get from where you are to, hey, we need to create another event and here's what it's going to be? What's that journey like?
Yeah, just what the world needs, more events, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's been interesting for me to even contemplate events. First of all, I have to go back to my past and creating the idea of even creating a trade association, right? Let's get all our competitors together in a room and talk about competing, but without crossing the lines of say, breaking any laws of talking about pricing or things like that, right? So the idea was bringing together birds of a feather. Finally, I meet someone who has the same passions and is working towards the same stuff and has the same challenges that I have. And when I brought together mystery shopping companies, for instance, back in 97, 98, everyone had thought that they invented mystery shopping, and everyone was dealing with the struggles of having to find shoppers and all this stuff. So, naturally we had to have conferences. So putting together those conferences and putting together an agenda, and partly education. So there's some tactical things you need to learn hands-on. How do I do X? And there's also there's more networking things, and there's also sort of a higher thinking kind of learning. It's not necessarily tactical, but it's just how do I think about the world, right? So those kind of conferences were going on back in the 90s. As that evolved, I started the Mobile Marketing Research Association. We started doing workshops all around the world. Gosh, we were doing down in Brazil and Germany and China and all these places. It was a lot of fun. But these workshops were tag-along events that we did on top of other conferences. The MRMW conference was famed one, as well as the Qual 360 conference by Merlin. So learning from Jasper and Jens in that business, and watching the different conferences grow, I think it was interesting for me also to look at what happened with associations. I think associations were struggling to keep people together before even the pandemic. Why belong to an association when you have social media, you have private events all over the place, you have other ways to connect and get connected with people. So, that was one of the main things associations did for a long time. They'd publish a book of members, whatever it is, that would be the main directory for the industry, and promote that trade. That's no longer enough, to survive as a trade industry. And frankly, trade associations, their biggest moneymaker and reason for being was always the annual conference. So when you take that part of it away, and you say, okay, well, how can we still meet and have an annual conference, but let's do it smart. So here's where this came about. This event actually started off just as a CXPA local event. And it was simply just a CX Day thing. And I was like, let's do a TED Talks. Yeah. And it had enough traction behind it where it attracted others to say, hey, what if this is a whole day event? What if we brought people together and had networking and more time and really could allow people to tell their stories and make it broader, and make it more local. So that's what we did, and brought it, kind of co-created it with these other associations, and then started thinking in terms of local markets and purposely smaller. We didn't want a 10,000 person thing or even a 1,000 person thing. We wanted it to be the New York thing, the Boston thing, the Chicago thing, the Atlanta thing, right? And going broad so people can learn across different disciplines, cross-pollinate, as well as industries. So that's where we're netted, and I like it. It's kind of like a jam. It's like hosting a jam. Let's get all the parts together, and learn from each other, and make some noise.
How does that work for you, though? If you're talking about experience, you feel the need to create an experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's your process to that? How does that work to have to think through what those experiences might be, especially like you're talking about in this kind of competitive, maybe not even competitive, but crowded, loud voices from everywhere market, right? Like how do you stand out just from the sake of an experience?
Yeah, another good one. Well, I think it's engagement. It's really hard. First of all, you got to get attention. Because we're in a low attention span economy. Whatever it is, people don't really have a lot of time to think. So once you get their attention, then you want to engage them, but engage them in an interesting way, but not too long. I've looked at a lot of different things to do that are before our events, and yet also there has to be an interest. If you're not interested in attending all these things that we may do in advance, like workshops. Fortunately, we have some good signups for our workshops right now. We do 4 workshops the day before our event. These are very tactical, hands-on, 90-minute long workshops. And we've got around 25 or 30 people coming to each workshop right now. But for instance, a happy hour event, before. Do people want to come to another happy hour online? I don't know. We're going to have one. Even doing something like this, a live stream, right? Do people come? It's just kind of a pop-up thing. You guys have been doing it a while, so you have a regular scheduled thing, right? If we're just a pop-up, who knows? For me, it's about engagement, okay? Now, what we do is we basically, I create a stage. I look at it as almost like theater. Create a stage and do it in an interesting place. So that's kind of central. I don't want to be in a hotel that's a boring environment. I have to build another conference room and stage. I like to go to a place where he has a stage set, like a city winery. It's a music venue, and it has food and wine. So that's kind of a bonus already. And it's got a lot of cubby holes and outdoor seating and things like that. So an interesting place, number one. Number two, having set it up where the agenda for each city, we have different speakers. They're local speakers mostly. But and finding speakers who are local is really important, along with a few people who are from out of town to come in who are nationally known thought leaders or have some new message, like Shawn. He'll be traveling around, one of the few traveling around the country to spread the gospel, if you will.
And Michael, he doesn't even know that I used to be a preacher, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm spreading the gospel of CX.
It's funny. I think that there's a role for so many different people in CX. We and using the analogy of religion. I mean, we preach to the choir all the time in our own profession, and we get sick of it sometimes because we are preaching to the choir, right? And there's a lot of people out there diss thought leaders, whatever, in our own profession because we hear it all the time. But I think thought leaders are needed in the industry to evangelize to those who don't know it. And I think there's a lot of people out there who don't know what CX is, or they may think they know it, but they really don't get it. And they're kind of tossed in the position. I think thought leaders do a great job of kind of opening the door in different industries. What about building products? What about all these other things that have nothing, maybe there's no one showing them the light, right? And I think that that's where thought leaders can really help lead the way.
Well,
We hear that all the time, right?
Yeah. And I love it. And I just want to give a call out here, Michael, to a couple people, because we're getting a lot of comments today. A good friend of ours, Mike Kendall, and he's actually tuning in from Plano, Texas. We have Patty with us too, from Tampa, and a good friend of ours, Kat, always from sunny Las Vegas. I love that, and I don't know where you're going with that, Michael, but I love the venue idea, right, that you're doing, and that it is very local, and very honored that we're going to be privileged to travel, to all the locations with you this year. I guess, how do you differentiate yourself though? Like, again, like this week there was we work a lot and we've done a lot of work in healthcare. There was a huge conference in Indianapolis. There was the CX Exchange this week in Boston. I think I know what differentiates you from just being a conference and even just the day event, because you actually have a tagline that you use, which is a tagline that I love, that says, we're the customer experience connection. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, it's kind of serendipitous that I was actually I'm on the regional council now for CXPA, and that means I kind of help look over the U.S. And specifically, my goal with CXPA was to help revive and energize local markets. All right, so I have a passion for bringing together people in local markets. I think that's where the action happens. Okay, so in Atlanta, we've had a really strong local market networking group for a long time. In Boston as well, that's kind of where CXP got its start. So from a foundational level of working within an association, that's kind of where we start the connection thoughts. All right, and really, even looking at my thinking from all the other associations, I've always had a process of thinking around concentric circles, right? So it's not just one person that makes things, but how can you get other people to get other people? and sort of concentric circles, and also feeling of responsibility and ownership among everyone. So it takes a village, literally. How do you get each person to feel ownership of that village, right? So that they feel pride in it, and they feel like they want to contribute. Some markets do better than others, and it's just a matter of who wants to step up to the plate. Now, our goal is to sort of provide that opportunity and place. By definition, a forum is a place for exchanging ideas. Okay, so we're coming in, creating that place and time, and hopefully extending things out a little further beyond just that one moment in time by having some online things. And we have some plans for some things after the event as well that would be like a best of, as well as some other ideas I'm looking at around some hacking games and things like that we might do on an annual basis. So the idea is engagement on a local level. How do we get people to meet each other, and how do we get them to want to do something as a group beyond their profession so that they can get to know each other better and support each other? It's building trust. And small groups are kind of where it's at.
Yes. I mean, you're absolutely in the right direction. And I hope people that are listening are starting to figure out, are you coming to their neighborhood, right? So with all of that, we've talked about the what and the how. What about the feeling? So if I come to your event, what do you hope that I walk away feeling about the world, about experience, about my passions, my purpose, my job? Like what is that key feeling takeaway that you hope someone will have?
I hope they meet someone new. It doesn't take much to change your direction and change your life. Sometimes just one person can really just make a difference. You never know who you're going to meet, and that can really change everything. Or learning something just from off the stage. You hear something, it really sticks, and if you're not learning every day, you're on the downside, right? So just hearing something new. I see that Mike has a question here. Sometimes a catalyst for Major League Forwards when a speaker participant is provoking. Gosh, yeah, we've had some. Sometimes sometimes it's simple things, and sometimes it's more complex, right? And I've seen some things at our talks that are very complex, and I've seen some things that are very simple. An idea of complexity. We've had one of the founders that worked on the MPS score, right? He was talking about how to apply MPS to B2B, and it was having a hard time with that, and so got into the whole math behind it and lost the audience completely because it was like, whoa, phew. But one of the better ones was a young lady from BMW, and she got up and talked about the power of hello. And she said, we walk down the hall and we ignore each other. How can we ignore each other in our headquarters and expect them to do something at the dealership to be warm? And that really hit home, when it was just a simple message, right? It's really hard to be simple and get that message across.
Yeah, and do it in 15 minutes.
Oh, 10. Remember that 15 has to include the intro and the outro.
Yeah, Michael and I will be working on my 15-minute talk next week for the first event in April. And by the way, I love just for everyone to see. Mark put together this great overlay that you'll see. But here's the CX Atlanta. Blown up silos, maverick mindsets, and experience ecosystems. And me talking for 15 minutes is going to be fun.
Right.
I think I have a story that I'm going to wrap it around. But hey, I want to make sure. I want to ask you one more question. Mark, for everyone, because we have a lot of experienced people listening today. We have about 35 people on listening. What's the next trend that you think is going to happen in the world of in CX or in the experience ecosystem as we even talk about it?
I think there's going to be a lot more focus on one-to-one relationships in small groups. It's kind of like with all this technology and all the tools that we have at our disposal. It's kind of like when the whole pandemic came. I'll just put in my own personal experience. When the whole pandemic came down, I was looking at possibly just moving my conferences online. I could have easily done it. Pressed a button, have everyone pre-record their sessions, and just kind of push things out there. Be it like a broadcast, and let everyone chat in the chat bar over there, and that'd be enough engagement, right? No. Instead, what I did was I sat there and watched all these things, and I tried every platform out there. You name it, I was trying it. And really, in order to try, you had to create an event and just sort of play with it. And I realized after a while, I was looking for a better technology. I was spending a lot of time looking for better technology to make me a better producer, to produce a better show. I thought I had to have better technology. At the end of the day, I just ended up going to Zoom and creating something simple in meetings and providing a format where people could talk with each other. And I realized it didn't matter what technology I had. It's kind of like saying, okay, I need a mechanical pencil instead of a regular pencil because that's going to make me a better writer or an artist. I can't write with a regular pencil, because I need a pen. What? This doesn't help you one way or another. Your artistry, your writing, it's inside you.
Well, I love it. I think the one-on-one thing is becoming, we hear it a lot in healthcare, personalization, but even trying to define that, right, Michael? Like you've been working on a project with a pretty big company on how do you try to do it in a way that, and Michael, you guys are even doing it on this project without technology, right? And it is building that one-on-one connection, human to human again. Well, awesome, Mark. People can connect with you, I know, on LinkedIn. I want to put this banner up real fast so people can see. This is where the CX forums are going to be this year, April 19th in Atlanta, May 10th, Boston, June 7th, and Chicago. We have DC, New York City, Nashville, and Austin. So we will be at each of those events. Really excited to be with you this year, Mark, on this journey. And, Michael and I have said it, we're really tired of really big conferences. If people are listening from conferences, I'm sorry, but we really like these intimate days and these moments. That's where we thrive and where I see us going in the industry. So thank you so much, Mark. We're going to actually try to get a couple of the speakers from these events on the show with us.
I would love you to do that
as well.
Yeah,
because they're great people, and we've been out there, looking at them and connecting with them. So, Mark, if you'll hang out for just a little bit, Michael and I are going to close up the show, and we'll be back to say bye with you. So, Michael, any big plans this weekend?
I am heading to Dallas and then Las Vegas for all of our work next week.
That's right. I keep forgetting that you're traveling again this weekend. Real exciting things for next week. We have an amazing friend of ours who is now the Vice President of Growth and Client Success at Teladoc Health Canada. Zaina Kayat, great friend. If you want to know anything about telehealth and just the future of medicine, you want to be on with Zaina next week because she is just a rock star. As well, you can reach out to Michael and I at mofi.co or ShawnNason.com. Send us an email at hello@mofi, as well as connect with us on LinkedIn. But most importantly is that if you play in this experience ecosystem, these forums that we just talked about with Mark, we want you on the show. Reach out to us. We love to have people that are doing it in the day-to-day on the show with us and talk about the good, bad, and ugly of what it's like to be in the experience world. So, Michael, you have safe travels. I know there's some crazy weather around, and I will see you in Vegas.
That's right, and good luck to the Louisville Cardinals team in the tournament tonight.
Oh, yes.
Pretty excited.
Yes, that is very exciting. Yes. So, all right, Michael, have a great travel day.
See ya.